Wenliang, the Chinese doctor who warned of the coronavirus and the first martyr of the pandemic. Who was Wenliang? He was a Chinese ophthalmologist working at Wuhan Central Hospital, who warned his colleagues in December 2019 on the possible outbreak of a disease resembling severe acute respiratory syndrome, acronym SARS, later known as COVID-19. Since then, he became a whistleblower when his warnings were shared publicly. But what did Li Wenliang do? In December 2019, Li was working at the epicenter of the future pandemic when he detected 7 cases of a virus that resembled SARS, the one that sparked a global epidemic in 2003. The cases were suspected of coming from the Huanan seafood market in Wuhan, and the patients were quarantined at his hospital. On December 30 of the year 2019, of the same year, Li sent a message to her colleagues in a chat in which he warned them of the outbreak and recommended that they wear protective clothing to avoid getting infected. Already in December, Li published a medical document on the social network called Weibo. This is the Chinese version of Twitter, detailing the diagnosis of coronavirus for a patient. 4 days later that, he received a visit from officials from the Public Security Bureau, who told him to send a letter. In that letter, they accused him of making false comments that had severely disturbed the social order. So this censorship made that the doctors were not instructed to protect themselves, and a week after he received a visit from the police, Li had to treat a woman suffering from glaucoma. He did not know that she had caught the coronavirus. In the text post he posted on Weibo, the doctor described how on January 10 he started coughing and that the next day he had a fever, and 2 days later he was in the hospital. Her parents also felt ill and were taken to the hospital too. It was on January 20 of the year 2020 when China declared an emergency in the wake of the outbreak, and Li said that he was tested several times to see if it was coronavirus, and that they all tested negative. But on January 30, he spoke about the issue again on social media. He explicitly said, "Today they gave me the result of the nucleic acid test, and it is positive. I had finally been diagnosed," he posted. And about his Dr. Lee's death, there was a lot of confusion at the announcement of his death. There was a lot of confusion as to when exactly Lee passed away. After a day of chaos and denials, the Chinese health authorities finally confirmed that the young doctor died in the early morning of February 6 to 7 of the year 2020. In the first instance, the young doctor was declared dead on the 6th by recognized media in the country, which are controlled by the state and are usually the loudspeaker of the official line. However, shortly afterwards, the Wuhan Central Hospital denied that he had died. He claimed that he was in critical condition, but that everything possible was being done to revive him. The official press also retracted and even deleted the publication on social networks in which they reported the death. Hours later, the hospital confirmed the death with a new message on Weibo, the most popular social network in the country. Uh, it says, in the fight against the novel coronavirus pneumonia epidemic, the ophthalmologist at our hospital, Wenliang, was unfortunately infected. Li died despite all efforts to resuscitate him. We deeply regret his passing, the hospital reported on February 7. At first, the news of the doctor's death was received with sorrow on the Weibo social network, but the feeling of mourning soon turned to anger. There were already accusations against the government of underestimating the severity of the virus and initially trying to keep it secret. Lee's death further fueled that feeling, sparking a debate about the lack of freedom of expression in China. The country's anti-corruption department said it would open an investigation on issues involving Dr. Li Wenliang. The Chinese government had already admitted flaws and shortcomings in its response to the outbreak, which has already killed more than 600 people and infected more than 30,000 in mainland China. Then, it has already been a year since this Chinese doctor, considered a hero, died partly from the infection caused by the coronavirus, and on the other hand, also because of the censorship and authoritarianism of the Communist Party of China.